Welcome to the Pub Sports Radio college basketball closing time show for Thursday, February 25th. Ian Cameron and Conor Mack with you as always, ready to break down the Thursday card. Let's get to it. We're going to start in the Ohio Valley here. UT Martin against SIU Edwardsville. We've got Edwardsville 4.5-point home favorites, 139 the total in this game. Edwardsville has been besieged by injuries. They've played a lot of games and starting to resemble a team that might be running out of gas just a little bit here down the stretch of the Ohio Valley conference season. It's been a lot of adversity that this team's had to go through. The schedule makers really have not done them really much any favors because they've played just a shit ton of basketball games in a short period of time. They've had to play afternoon games. They've had to play double headers. They've had to play 4 games in 6 nights. And you can tell it's taking a toll. This team just 0-5 straight up, 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games coming into this one here against UT Martin. Not at all the kind of team I'm comfortable with. And I cashed a lot with Edwardsville in the underdog role early in the first half of the conference season. But you got to look now at what the team has become. And they're struggling big time right now. The offense is really at a tough time. They have barely cracked 60 points in 2 of their last 5 games, held below 60 in 3 of those games. So it's been a grind for them to score the basketball of late. Of course, you're also talking about a team that's hard to trust on the other side with the UT Martin Skyhawks. They've lost 4 in a row. They've only covered once during that span. You look at their last couple of tries as road dogs. Murray and Austin P, they get blown out in both games. It's obviously not the teams that are the caliber, or Edwardsville, not the team that is the caliber of those two. So if you ask me, I would lean to UT Martin here getting the points, but it's a game I just look at it and say pretty ugly game. 2 teams that are in really poor form right now. It's only going to be a lean for UT Martin, not a game I'm going to end up pulling the trigger with from a betting standpoint. C-Mac, what do you think here with Tennessee Martin and Edwardsville?
Yeah, I won't be playing this one either. SIU Edwardsville laying 4.5. Yeah, no way. No way. We liked them earlier, like you just talked about, maybe a month and a half ago, when they were covering some big numbers, catching points, but they have not looked good. I just took them their last game. They got blown out again. Was it against Austin P? Sorry, I don't have it up. Or Murray State. Anyways, they were catching 18 and got blown out. Nothing on this one. This was a quick pass. If I play it, like you said, free pick or something like that, I would take the points with UT Martin, but I wouldn't love it.
Yeah, that's for sure. Wouldn't love it would be is the perfect way to describe that game. That's for sure. We've got Iowa taking on Michigan next up. We've got Michigan open 4-point home favorites here, up to 5.5 total, 154. Not a lot of believers in Iowa going on the road to Ann Arbor here and winning this game, and I can't say I blame them. I think Michigan is cheap here. I thought it was cheap at -4. It's getting up there now, 5.5. It's not like I think I was going to get completely drilled and blown out in this game. But look, Michigan's played almost unstoppable basketball on their home floor. Unstoppable overall, but especially here at home at the Chrysler Center in Ann Arbor. They've been excellent, and they've had some really impressive, just pillar-to-post beatdown performances of their opponent here on their home floor. Remember what they did to Wisconsin earlier this season at home. They just took apart the Badgers. I'll give Iowa some credit in this. They're playing a little bit better defensively the last few games, and that there's no question they've made some strides there. But boy, now they're going to be playing this Michigan team. Eli Harris, as Isaiah Livers, just a bunch of shooters. Franz Wagner, just a bunch of weapons that Michigan can throw out now at this Iowa team. Going to be, I think, too much for them to handle. The Hawkeyes are actually beaten some decent teams on the road the last couple, including Michigan State, who, of course, have played better basketball. We'll be talking about Michigan State later in this show. But to me, I think Michigan's the better team. And to me, Michigan right now, you can make a really good case, and I think it's an accurate case, can make that case that Michigan's the 3rd best team in the country right now behind Gonzaga and Baylor. That's not Iowa. I think there's some people that are hyping this up as 2 national title contenders. I only see one team that can win a national title, and that's the home favorite here. I don't think Iowa is that team that's in that same discussion or same category. So it's up to 5.5 now. Lost a little value. Still like Michigan here to get the job done with the win and cover. And a lean to the over, because Michigan, for as good as Iowa's defense has been lately, it's been better. They're not shutting down Michigan. Michigan's just shooting the ball. They're executing their offense at too much of a high level for Iowa to be able to corral them, I think. So I think the game does just get up and over the total. You're going to get good pace as well from both teams, the way they play. And I like the side a little bit more on Michigan here. Connor, what do you think here? Big one in the Big Ten here, Hawkeyes and Wolverines.
Yeah, I think the value is a little bit at 5.5. I really liked it at 4.5. I'd only look at Michigan as well. I know Iowa's played better lately. I still just don't. I think they're still just a bit soft. I don't think they're one of the top teams in the country. I think they're just below that. And I just don't like him here. I think it's Garza. Like you said, I think those last few games, like, have they really played better defense? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe it's just a stretch of Big Ten basketball, low-scoring games. I don't really know. And I'm kind of, how do you not jump on this Michigan team and train right now? And you're right. I think it's a little low. Not too much. I mean, I thought it would be maybe 7 this game, the way Michigan's playing. But I got to go with the Wolverines. Only if Iowa played a little bit better on the road. And you talked about it. It just, they'll wear them down, I think, Michigan, slowly. You know, that efficient offense, that good defense in the paint. And but I can't wait to watch it. We'll see if Iowa can play. But I'm with you. I don't know if it can get over the 154. I don't know if I'm going to mess with the total, but I'm with you. As long as it's at 5, I'm with you here. I'm on Michigan -5.
All right, Pac-12, Washington, Arizona State, Sun Devils, 9.5-point home favorites here. The total, 154. Same two teams that met the other night, and Washington was just totally eviscerated in that game. And unfortunately, that's sometimes what happens if you're going to trust Washington like I did the other night. They're capable of having those kind of games where just everything goes wrong. Everything that can go wrong does go wrong. That's exactly what happened to the Huskies. They only shot 24 of 65. Pretty miserable. They could only score 64 points against a pretty bad Arizona State defense. But that goes to show you what you get sometimes in Washington. They give up 97 in that loss to the Sun Devils. Mike Hopkins sort of calling out his team for, sort of giving up in that game. Will that spark something today from the Huskies? Who knows? I still am leery of laying 9.5 here. With the Sun Devils, but Mike Hopkins saying it's about us. Part of the message with the kids is if you lose by 1, you lose by 70, you lose. The key in this whole thing is to understand what mistakes we made and how we respond to it. We'll have to see how it goes here. What's amazing too about that domination for Arizona State against Washington? They were extremely shorthanded. Josh Christopher didn't play. Marcus Bagley didn't play. Jalen Graham didn't play. It's insane. And yet that Tayshaun Cherry also was out for that game. They had to rely on Remy Martin, Kamani Lawrence, and Alonzo Verge in that game, and they got the job done for the Sun Devils. So it's very short-handed Arizona State and they team, and they still beat the living tar out of Washington here. I don't know if I could trust Washington one more time. Quaddy Green didn't start in the last game. We'll see if he's back in the starting line. I think you almost have to have him back in that starting lineup today. It's insane not to. I mean, he's been really the only offensive catalyst at times that's consistent this year for the Huskies. So we'll see if there's pride. Hopefully there is. If they do show pride, I think they can cover. But I don't want to bet on something I think can happen. It's been a bet on something I think will happen. And I'm leaning to Washington, but I'm not going to get back there with them again. Connor, what do you think here? Washington, ASU.
Yeah, I was with you. I think I am. I'm going to make sure green, though, for sure. One thing on these blowouts, I've seen it time and time again. The next game they play each other on these back-to-backs, like the Drake game with Chicago, Illinois, Loyola, they come back and there's a tight one. I don't think Arizona State should have been favored by 9.5. Like you said, I think Washington kind of quit. I just wish that they had that big blowout win. We were getting 11 right now. Maybe not 9.5 still. They didn't give us any love for a blowout loss. So you want to stick to the 9.5. So I lean with Washington. I'm gonna wait on the green, see if make sure he's in this one. But and wait on that. If he's in, I think I'm gonna pull the trigger and take Washington again plus 9.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't blame you one bit. Next up, we've got Tennessee State, Morehead State. We've got Morehead State 11-point home favorites, 132.5 the total in this game. Obviously, you've got another one of these mismatch situations. Morehead State's been pretty solid. They're one of those just above, upper tier, upper half of the Ohio Valley teams, 18-7 overall, a good year. They're playing really good basketball, 9-1 straight up their last 10 games. However, what do we care about most? We care about the point spread. How are you doing ATS? And they've actually dropped 3 straight ATS. They beat UT Martin as 13-point road favorites, but only won by 10. They had the loss to Belmont. Nobody's beating Belmont, though, in this conference right now. And then in their last game against Edwardsville, 12-point road favorites. They only win by 8. And now you're at home. You're laying, 11.5 here. Tennessee State is not a great team, but all of a sudden, last couple, they beat Tennessee Tech 91-86, and they hang tough against Jacksonville State 77-76. They've played faster. They've actually sped up their tempo, and it's resulted in 5 straight overs here for Tennessee State. And that's the counter of Morehead State, who want to slow it down, play in the half court, and rely on defense. Not necessarily a gifted offensive team, Morehead State, but play good defense. So it's a clash of styles, clash of pace, clash of everything here in this one. I'd lean a little bit to the Tennessee State side, getting 11.5. We have seen Morehead State struggle as double-digit chalks, so I'm leaning a little bit to Tennessee State here as double digits. What do you think, Conor? Tennessee State, Morehead State?
Yeah, Morehead just had trouble right at this number, kind of 12, 11, 10. They haven't been able to cover. I'm with you. It is a clash a little bit. I'd lean towards this over. These are ones I just try to catch like we do every day, looking at. I think it's a little low. As long as Morehead gets theirs and they could stay in the 70s, for the most part they do. Certain matchups they can, like that last game with Southern Illinois, was 56-48. I think you can get up and over. And yeah, I'd only be on the dog here with Tennessee State. And, I'm not going to go right now and just lay 11, not a premium if they haven't been getting it done. I'll just stay away from this one. Morehead's kind of like the public team, here that are always laying the big number for small conference. So it'd just be a pass, or I'd look towards the over here, the 132.
All right, Santa Clara, Gonzaga. Want to lay 30.5? That's what you got to do if you like Gonzaga here. 153.5 the total. That's what you get in 2021 betting Gonzaga in West Coast Conference play. You're going to have to lay a premium with them. Again, with Gonzaga, I just don't really get involved because, it's hard to bet them under, but their totals are always sky high. That they're so high that they sometimes can go under. It's always a matter of focus with them in order of whether they cover the full game spread. If they're up big, does Mark Few go to the bench? We know talent-wise they can cover this number, but I just stay away from Gonzaga games. And that's the way I've been with Gonzaga the last few years. Late in the West Coast Conference schedule, really don't try to outsmart and outthink myself and get involved in Gonzaga games. I just stay away from them, and that's what I did here. What do you think, Conor? Santa Clara, Gonzaga?
Yeah, I just can't mess around these Gonzaga games too much. I mean, the only place I look to is catch the points with Santa Clara, but it's not my favorite look. There's too many other better games. But I think it's this high. There's a little bit of value, but when you say that, Gonzaga either they just cover against me, and then the games I wouldn't take, they second half kind of slide in the team backdoor covers. It's usually just a basket or two. So if you want to hold on to a basket or two, sweating at the end, I don't want to do that. So yeah, it's just a pass for me, especially this late in the season in the West Coast Conference.
All right, we've got Nebraska and Illinois in the Big Ten. Illinois 13.5-point home favorites, 145 the total in this game. Illinois opened 16.5, went all the way down to as low as 12.5, and Ayo Dosunmu's status is the reason why. He's questionable for this game for Illinois, and we know obviously he's the catalyst of this team. And if he doesn't play, that's a significant absence. He's been just their be-all, end-all. He's been their big shot maker at the end of games throughout the course of the season. He's just had a brilliant, brilliant year for the Fighting Illini. So if he doesn't play, that's obviously going to be an issue here for the Fighting Illini going into this game tonight. However, I have noticed in the last couple of hours. Illinois has gone up. The total's gone up. Makes me think he could play. I'm just going to see if I can get it up to. No, they've officially ruled him out for tonight. So interesting. It looks like he's been ruled out, and yet here's Illinois starting to take some money, and as well as the total in this game. So maybe it's that theory that sometimes we think of in the NBA, that first game with the star player, the key player, the best player out, everybody rises up, plays a little bit better. And it's not like they can't beat Nebraska at home without him. I mean, we are talking Nebraska here. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's value now on Illinois. I don't know if that's enough to get me to back them here, but especially with the Ayo Dosunmu now downgraded to out or doubtful for this game. But there is value in this number. This number shouldn't be as low as 13.5, all things considered. But I think I'm going to stay off it. I would lean to the favorite, lean to the over, though, in this one. Connor, what do you think? Nebraska, Illinois?
Yeah, I'm going to stay off. I'd lean towards catching the points with Nebraska just a little bit. I don't know, as we saw with Illinois, when they want to play and they don't want to play. It's just, we want to kick a team's ass or we'll just lay back. If it was maybe 16, I'd like Nebraska a bit more. I think the number's probably spot on with him out. So that'd just be a pass for me. I don't think it's enough to take Nebraska. They've only played okay, usually at home. But I'd only look towards the dog catching points here. Some of these big numbers we're seeing, they're not covering. It kind of bit me weeks ago, and I'm always on my dog train taking these points, and all of a sudden the last 2 or 3 nights they're all winning. I take North Carolina last night, and whew, wow, that was ugly. I watched the first half, bad, but yeah, I'd only take the points with Nebraska. I wouldn't want to lay it right now with Illinois.
All right, next up we've got Western Kentucky and Houston on deck. A rare, interesting non-conference game here. Conference USA versus AAC here. Houston, 11.5-point home favorites, 137 the total. I'm going to do it. I mean, I usually don't like going against Houston, but this isn't a chop liver basketball team that they're playing tonight. And they're laying double figures in this game against a Western Kentucky team that can play. They've got a great backcourt. They've got one of the best bigs in the country in Bassie. This is a really, really good Western Kentucky Hilltoppers team. I just think they're getting too many points here. Now, Houston is also coming off a perfect game. They couldn't have played any better against Cincinnati. They destroyed the Bearcats. They lit it up offensively. They were stifling defensively. Kelvin Sampson and the players were talking about, we really wanted to put a good game on the court for the people in the area who are struggling and dealing with the crisis that hit the state of Texas. Power outages caused by the snowstorm, lacking drinking water, even in some instances, just a terrible situation with what hit that state a couple of weeks ago. And they just wanted to, sort of, pick everybody up a little bit in the area, have put a good game together. And they certainly did that against Cincinnati. But what I worry is when you play that well, almost a perfect game, it's hard to replicate that the very next game. And, let's be honest, Western Kentucky is better than Cincinnati from a basketball standpoint. And again, you're not going to get value. That's probably why this game is double-digit favorites too. You got Houston coming off just this ridiculous blowout win. The power ratings got to go up on Houston after a win like that. So instead of laying 8.5, which is probably what it should be in this game, you're laying 11.5. Western Kentucky's a damn good team. I'm willing to take 11.5 here with a damn good team, even though I know how good Houston can be when they're on their game. But to me, it's just a few too many. Western Kentucky can play some D as well, and I think they can hang. So I'm going to go with the toppers here, plus 11.5. What do you think, Connor? Western Kentucky, Houston.
Gonna go with Western Kentucky as well, but I'm gonna just hold my nose. The only thing is, with Houston, these 3 losses were on the road where they played bad. At home, they've just kicked ass and covered number all year long.
They have.
They've been
a great home favorite. I don't argue that.
So that I'm a little, that's why I'm going to hold it. But I, like you just talked about, this Western Kentucky team is a solid team. They lost to West Virginia by 6 earlier in the year. They love getting up for these games, against these bigger schools, always, especially the last few years. I'm going to take the 11.5 and hold my nose too. I think they can hopefully stay in it. It's just in the back of my mind that Houston defense and being at home's got me a little scared, but I'm going to take it with you, plus 11.5.
All right, they got to take that plunge together. We're going to do that here, Conor and I, with Western Kentucky. Belmont and Eastern Kentucky, as we go back to the Ohio Valley. Belmont, 8-point road favorites, 161.5 the total. How crazy is it that you can get Eastern Kentucky, the Colonels, a pretty good team in this conference, third place in the Ohio Valley, as an 8-point home underdog in this game? That tells you how just ridiculous Belmont has been. Casey Alexander's team is a terror. They are going to be a nightmare. They are going to be a serious threat to anyone they face in the NCAA tournament next month. You better watch out for Belmont. They're going to be a trendy. Unfortunately, they're also going to be a trendy upset pick. I know that because they're getting a lot more headlines now. But it's the traditional, typical Belmont team. They run such good offense. They take great shots. They hit the three ball. They do all the things that the Belmont teams for years have done, and that's why they've always been a good team and a scary team at tournament time. Eastern Kentucky, the over is the gift that keeps on giving with this team. I think it's now 9 or 10 straight overs for Eastern Kentucky. I've been on a bunch of them, and I'm just going to keep riding it. Even with the total 160 or 161.5 here in this game, I'm going to ride it again. You're going to get both of these teams, full court, tempo, up and down, good offensive teams. You're going to get a ton of possessions because these are extremely fast teams. I think I'm going to go over this total one more time. Again, I've been riding EKU over the total, and it keeps on winning. Even at this exorbitant number, 161.5, I'm going to go right back to the well with it here. Belmont, Eastern Kentucky over. C-Mac, what do you like here in this Ohio Valley matchup?
Yeah, even at 161, I think it gets there too. Both these teams love to just go up and down and be in the 80s and 90s. I got to give, only because Belmont's on the road here. I haven't bet it yet, but a lean with Eastern Kentucky catching the 8. While they've been able to go on the road and win, they haven't been able to cover a lot, Belmont, on these road spots. They're a lot better at home. They cover a big blowout wins at home. So I'm leaning Eastern Kentucky, and I'm leaning the over as well. I think they can stay in this one, and it'll be a high-scoring one for sure. It'll be back and forth, I think.
All right, next up, Pac-12 action, UCLA, Utah. We've got the Bruins 1-point road chalk in Salt Lake here. The total 136 across the board. We know UCLA, they've been banged up. They've been beleaguered. They've had guys out of the lineup the last several games, but starting to get things going again, get a little bit healthier at least. I know Hill is still out. We know Smith out for the season, but they're starting to get things going again. 3 straight wins. Ugly win against Washington on the road, but beat up Arizona by 14 and beat Arizona State in their last game. Can they take care of business here against Utah is the question. And it's a good question because look at some of the performances. Utah's beaten Colorado, Stanford, and Arizona this season on their home floor. This is still a home court you got to respect here. Like Utah is definitely the inferior team in this matchup. But they have shown that capability of rising up and beating better teams in the Pac-12 on their home floor. And they've shown it enough that I'm not going to go with UCLA here. I'm staying off the game because I think UCLA is the better team, but Utah's risen up and beaten good competition at home. And, they might be capable of doing that again here. What do you think, Conor? UCLA and Utah?
Yeah, I think so too. The home court advantage for Utah, even though they've lost a few players. And I don't know the guy, what's his name, that went to the national team for him. I forget his name. His name's something for Utah. Anyways, his absence is big.
Yes.
With him being gone, but still that home court for Utah, I think is good. I like if they were catching 2 or 3, a few more points here. I'm going to go Utah here. UCLA has not played well on the road, especially at times. They've been unreal at Poly. They've been great at home. And we'll talk about another team, Colorado, here in a little bit. Just this home court, the elevation. It's just not easy to play there. So I'm leaning towards Utah here, just taking the pointer either and just take it money line at this point.
Yeah, they got a player, Utah, and Timmy Allen. That's a guy that they can really build something around. He's been a spark plug for the Utes this year. They'll need a big one out of him if they're going to beat the UCLA Bruins tonight. We've got SEMO, Southeast Missouri State, Eastern Illinois. Eastern Illinois 6-point home favorites here, 138 the total in this game. A lot was expected of Eastern Illinois, a team with a lot of juniors, a lot of seniors, a lot of returning experience, and yet this team has just not really been able to get on track at any point this season. The Eastern Illinois Panthers, they're facing a SEMO team that struggled themselves. The good news, though, for EIU is this maybe a little bit of a buy sign for them? Like, they've shown us no ability to put things together until these last couple of games. They go on the road against Murray, win outright as 15-point dogs, go on the road at Austin P and win outright as 7-point dogs. So you're talking about 15-point dog, 7-point dog, the last two in Eastern Illinois. Is that a sign they're getting it going here? That's the question. And betting markets are starting to buy into this turnaround and resurgence here late in the season with Eastern Illinois, because they've been bet up from 4.5 to 6. Hard to argue with that. They're playing good these last couple, and if they can beat Austin P and Murray State on the road, surely they can take care of business against SEMO, although SEMO has a couple of pretty good wins of their own. They beat Eastern Kentucky. They beat Austin P. Eastern Kentucky just destroyed them in the last game in the revenge spot. But prior to that, they had a couple good wins too. I do like the momentum for Eastern Illinois. I agree with the move, although now at 6, I'd pump the brakes just a little bit on betting it now with where this number is. The total right now in this game is sitting around 138. I would lean over. We've gotten 5 straight overs from this SEMO team. The last 6 games for Eastern Illinois, 5-1 to the over. Those games have gotten to 140, 147, 158. They had one low-scoring game that got to 127, and then the last game against P got to 145 points. You're talking about 138, and only one of those last 6 Eastern Illinois games have stayed below that total. So I lean to the favorite, and I like over 138 here with this matchup. What do you think, CMAC, Eastern Illinois hosting SEMO?
Yeah, I like Eastern Illinois at home. They played so well just as of late after the horrible season they were having. I just think the number's a little stretched out. It's gotten steamed here, from 3, we're all the way up to 6. There's still a few 5.5s. So I think it's just too many here because SEMO, one thing, they're not very good on the road. But it's right at that number. If this was 3 earlier, I think I felt pretty comfortable with Eastern Illinois, but now that it's up a little bit to 6, some places, I lean them still, but I'm going to pass on this one. And your take on the over, I could see it, especially SEMO on the road. They give up a ton of points. I think it could get over 138.
All right, next game we've got Portland State, Northern Colorado. A change in favorites here. Northern Colorado opened 2.5-point home favorites. Now it's Portland State laying a point on the road. The total in this game, 138.5, pretty much across the board. Northern Colorado lost a couple of their last 2 conference games in the Big Sky, 82-76, 68-64 to Northern Arizona. And look, Portland State is playing really good ball entering this game. They've won 4 straight games in a row, 2 of those against Idaho. The other one, it was a home win against Montana. On the road, though, they lost to Montana State earlier this season. I think this is a little bit of an overreaction. I know that they've won 4 in a row, but Montana's not quite the team they've been in years past. And then they beat a Division II team. So throw that one out. And then beating Idaho, cripe. Conor and I can get on the court. We can round up a team of Pub Sports Radio guys, and we can beat Idaho right now.
I can hit a couple J's.
Yeah, exactly. I can hit a couple free throws. Give me that chance. Give me the ball, coach. I can do it. But yeah, nevertheless, so strength of schedule leaves a little to be desired, to put it mildly, with Portland State's win streak here. So just see if this number continues to drift. And the more it drifts, the more I'm kind of looking at Northern Colorado here. What do you think, Conor, about this one?
Yeah, I just because they've had those kind of big wins, like you said, Idaho, horrible, one of the worst teams in Division I, right there. There's a handful of them, and they're right there. I like it. Yeah, I'll wait a little bit too. Now you see it ones with Portland State. Northern Colorado, one thing is they played well at home, and I like them here. I'm going to back them in this spot. Just take a money line, but I'll wait a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if it moves anymore. We'll see. I'm surprised so much movement's a little bit been on here on Portland State. They're not at home. They're going to Northern Colorado. That's why I'm a little shocked by the movement. But yeah, I'm on Northern Colorado here.
Yeah, I think people see the 4-game win streak, and there were underdogs at the beginning, and they said, "Oh, we got to bet this team. They've won 4 in a row. Why are they dogs?" Well, they might be dogs because you know what? Their schedule was pretty weak during that 4-game win streak. That's the way I feel about it anyway. Next up, we've got Murray State, Jacksonville State. Murray State, 3.5-point road favorites, 138 the total in this game. Murray State's turning it on. Best basketball of the season. I can't say I'm totally shocked. We know this team should have been better than they were earlier this season. They're starting to play like it. They have won 5 of their last 6, covered 5 of their last 6, 5-1 straight up in ATS last 6 games. Not just winning their games, blowing out teams, blowing out Eastern Kentucky, SEMO, Tennessee Martin, Edwardsville. Twice they beat Edwardsville by 29 and by 27. So they're just destroying teams lately all of a sudden. So Murray State's not a team I'm in a rush to go against, but Jacksonville State is on a good run as well. In their last 6, they're also 5-1 straight up in ATS. They only lost by 4 at Belmont. Nobody's given Belmont as tough a game as Jacksonville State and Ray Harper's team did not too recently. So these are 2 surging teams, but I'm leaning Jacksonville State a little bit here, 3.5. I like what I've seen. They're good at catching points. They're a good defensive team. That's also good, what I like out of my underdog here going into this game. I know it is, I believe, when you look back on it, Murray State, Jacksonville State beat Murray State head-to-head earlier this season, so I think people see maybe a little Murray revenge. That does worry me, considering the way Murray's playing right now. Not a game I'm betting, but Jacksonville, I've always been impartial to Jacksonville State. I've liked this team for years. They've always been that under-the-radar team that I've been able to get value with from a point spread perspective because the odds makers don't price them like Belmont and Murray and Austin Peay and some of the other better teams in this conference. So I'm a little biased when it comes to Jacksonville State. I like that team. I lean to them, but I'll be honest, Murray's a freight train right now. Murray's playing with revenge here. It's enough to keep me off it. What do you think, Conor? Murray, Jacksonville?
Yeah, it's going to keep me off it too. Jacksonville State beat them earlier this year. I just think there's a little bit of a revenge. But I think this game would be close. So I'd take the points at home with Jacksonville State as well. Damn, they're good as a dog, especially a home dog. So I would take them in the points. And I'm leaning towards the over a little bit. I don't love it, but it's just a look. I'd lean that way. I think Murray State wants to get up and go. This last game they played months ago was like 87, 82. Murray State wants to get up and down. I think Jacksonville State's got to do that with them. So I'd lean towards the over.
All right, we go back to the Big Sky. Weber State, Sacramento State. We've got Weber State 6.5-point road favorites, 144 the total in this game. Weber State definitely, when you're talking about Big Sky teams, this is one of the class teams in the conference. They played very, very steady, solid basketball, 7-1 straight up their last 8 games, 7-1 against the spread as well. Beat up Northern Arizona in back-to-back games, beat up on Montana on the road, swept 2 games at home against Montana State. It's been a good run for this team, no question about that. You've got Sacramento State on the other hand. They're coming off 2 ugly losses to Southern Utah, the Thunderbirds. Lost them by 19 and by 20 points, respectively. They'll be looking to bounce back here. On their home floor, they've been a little bit more competitive, but I'm not stepping in front of Weber right now. No way, no how. I would lean to the Weber State side here, 6.5 in this game, but just a lean at this point in time. Not a game I'll be betting, but I lean a little bit to Weber State. What do you think, C-Mac, about this one?
Yeah, I'm leaning too. I think I'm going to get to the window here. I like that's dropped a little bit. Weber's not as good on the road. And like you said, Sac State's a little better. Sacramento's a little better at home. And these are the numbers that kind of get me, these 6, 7s. But they're the better team here. And I think, you're getting a little bit of a discount. They can score at will, and I think they will against Sacramento. So I'm going to go with Weber State here and lay the 6.5.
All right, there we go. Laying the 6.5 here with Weber against Sacramento State for Conor. We move on down the card. Austin Peay, Tennessee Tech. Austin P 8-point road favorites, I should say. 143 the total in this game. Austin P, there's a bunch of teams in these conferences. Austin P and Murray State, just a bunch of them here. Just what were you doing in the first half of the conference season? Picking your nose, playing tiddlywinks because you weren't playing good basketball, and now all of a sudden you are. And now all of a sudden you are. And Austin P is another one of those teams. They've picked it up in the second half of the season. They are coming off that stunning loss, though, I will say that, to Eastern Illinois, 76-69. But we have seen this team play good in a bounce-back type spot. Certainly this stands out as a potential bounce-back type of spot here against a really porous Tennessee Tech team that is just 1-9 straight up in their last 10 games. They've shown the ability to beat down an opponent after a bad game. Remember, they lost to Southeast Missouri State, and then the next game they just took apart Edwardsville, Austin P by 22. I think they can get a double-digit win here. I'll lay the 8 here with the Governors and Austin P. What do you think, Connor, about Austin P and Tennessee Tech?
I lean that way. They've struggled, though, on the road a little bit. It's got me a little worried. Austin P all year. I like them a lot better at home. But you're right. They usually bounce back after a bad loss. I haven't bet it, but I'm with you here. I'm leaning towards laying the 8 here with Austin P. Oh, you're on mute, brother.
All right, next up, we've got Ohio State, Michigan State. There we go. We're back. Ohio State, 4-point road favorites, total 144.5. Michigan State, like Duke and a couple other teams, trying to make this last desperate charge to make the tournament. And I'll tell you what, they'll get a big step closer to that if they can win this game, because now all of a sudden you've seen them play well, again, have a huge win against Illinois in their last game, beat Indiana on the road prior to that. They still have work to do, but it's a start for Michigan State. And all of a sudden they're shooting the ball and scoring all of a sudden. 3 straight overs, including the last 2. They score 78 and 81. This was a team that was getting held into the 50s and 60s most of their games throughout Big Ten play. And it really coincides with, guess what? They're just starting to make shots. Isn't it amazing? You all of a sudden start to win games and start to become better when you all of a sudden make a few shots. It's amazing how basketball works, doesn't it? And now all of a sudden they're making some shots and they're starting to look like a competent team again. Michigan State. Aaron Henry's the guy that's picked up his game significantly here for the Spartans as of late. He's shooting the ball well. I like what I'm seeing from Michigan State right now. You know, they're getting their offense rolling. They're shooting the ball well. They've been extremely good from the field the last 2 games, but so is Ohio State. You know, this is a very efficient Ohio State team. They're top 5 in offensive efficiency, the Buckeyes, in the entire country. Dwayne Washington leading the way for this group. He's been outstanding. A big injury, though, for Ohio State tonight. Kyle Young out with a concussion. He's counted on for some of that low post production. And Michigan State is a team that has the size to attack the interior, which could leave Ohio State a little vulnerable there. The money's come in on Michigan State, and look, they've played 2 terrific games in a row. They're playing with desperation, and I'm not going to bet against desperate teams at this time of year, and Michigan State's a desperate team. They need this game a whole hell of a lot more than Ohio State, even though Ohio State's the better team, and even though this number kind of looks cheap on Ohio State with the way they've played, I'm not getting in front of Michigan State. They're desperate. They're playing better. They need the win to try to cement any sort of tournament hopes. So I do kind of lean to the Spartans, but the bet for me is over the total here. I mean, I'm totally stunned that the totals come down here from 148 to 144.5 in this one. The way Michigan State's picked it up offensively, and the way Ohio State can flat out get it done and shoot the ball and get into the 70s or 80s routinely. I'm a little puzzled. This game went from 148 down to 145 with this total. I think it's the wrong move. I like it over the total. Connor, what do you think? Ohio State, Michigan State.
Yeah, I'll start with the total since you ended that. I've been on Ohio State overs like probably their last 10, and they got 1 push and 1 under in those games. They're regularly, every game, they're in the 80s. Penn State 92-82, and then that 92-87 against Michigan. I think this is an over as well. I mean, now especially that it's dropped, I like it even more. It might drop even a little more I'll wait till the end to get in here. Yeah, it's a tricky situation. Ohio State, one thing, they've been so good on the road, and it feels a little cheap here. Michigan State's played well all of a sudden. Yeah, hit some shots, won the game. I'm going to stay off as well, but I know everyone likes Michigan State here. I think there's no crowd. I don't know. I think Ohio State's a little pissed. I think they thought they could have beat a Michigan team. So you got to look out for them coming off that loss there too. So if I had to bet it, I would take Ohio State in this one. I don't think I am on the side. I'm just going to stick with the over here on the total.
All right, San Francisco, BYU. BYU 9.5, 10-point home favorites, 141.5 the total. I'll tell you what, I wouldn't have seen San Francisco being 10-11 this season. This was a good team last year. Things just haven't gone well. Things just haven't gone right this season for Todd Golden's team. It's been disappointing to see what we've seen out of the Dons, but I'm telling you what, they're double-digit underdogs here. And the only other games that they've been a double-digit dog, Connor, were Gonzaga and Virginia. Games against those two teams. I don't think BYU is as good as Gonzaga or Virginia. I think there's a reason to look to San Fran here at plus 10 in this game. We know they've also had some capabilities in the past to be able to hang tough against BYU. Now, we know they've struggled. They've lost 4 in a row, both straight up and against the spread. But you look at this BYU team on their home floor, they didn't cover at home against Pepperdine. They didn't cover at home against Pacific, and they needed overtime to beat Pacific at home, 95-87. They lost to Gonzaga at home. The home favorite role hasn't been a cinch here for the Cougars. I think it's a great spot, great price. Nobody's going to want to rush to back San Francisco here, but I think they can step up and be competitive here in this game against BYU. I would expect that here tonight in this one. I'm going to look toward San Francisco here. They've covered 4 of the last 6 meetings head-to-head against BYU. I think they can do that again here. I like San Fran, the Dons, getting 10 here. What do you think, Connor, with San Fran, BYU?
Yeah, I'll be taking the 10 as well. I think it's too many. They lost by 9 earlier in the year at home, and they were up at halftime. I remember that game a little bit, and they kind of folded down the stretch and lost by 9. One thing is BYU is playing really well right now. It's got me. I think that's why this number's a little inflated. It's like 10. They've been kind of hot, covering nicely, and San Fran's been a little down in the dumps. Not that they lost by 5 to Loyola. Of course, Gonzaga blown out. They lost, by 8 to Pepperdine, 4 to St. Mary's. They just haven't been winning and playing their best basketball. I think 10's too many, though. I'm going to take the 10 with the Dons as well.
All right, next game up, we've got Oregon and Stanford in the Pac-12. Oregon, 2.5-point road favorites, 135 the total. Sometimes you just got to stay off a game and say, you know what? The betting markets were right in tune with me. I thought Oregon shouldn't have been the dog in this game. I know they got pummeled by USC in their last game. It was a brutal scheduling spot for Dana Altman's team. They were up against it and playing obviously a very good USC team. This is a great bounce back spot for them. But unfortunately, the betting markets agree with me, and now they've priced Oregon out of range. I wouldn't lay 2.5 if you didn't get them +1 or pick them. I wouldn't go there and lay 2.5 on the road, but I do think the movement is correct. I think Oregon does win this game. And again, they've been undervalued for a while because they had the struggles. They had the COVID pause. Now they're healthier, playing better basketball. And look, Stanford's an inconsistent mess. You don't know what you're going to get one game that they've got all the talent with Williams and with Dejon Davis and Wills and everybody on this team. It's a talented group, but they just in between their ears, and they can't focus, or they can't put 2 good quality performances together. That's consistently been an issue for Stanford this year. So I agree with the move. I would only look at Oregon, but boy, so much value gone now that they're 2.5 here on the road. What do you think, Connor? Oregon, Stanford.
Yeah, this should be a good one. I'm going to wait. I don't know if it moves anymore. I think after a certain point, I know Stanford's been up and down, but I think they have the talent. At some point, Oregon, horrible the other night. And SC hit a bunch of shots early. I mean, they hit 3 after 3. They were up 15.
That was a Utah Jazz type of scoring surge they had. Yeah,
it was they were just out of it. I mean, I looked at the score. I was like, huh? It's like it's 16-0 or something. I'm like, oh no. Oregon has good pressure, good defense. I think it's close. So if I was going to be on it, and I might, before I tweet out, I'm going to wait. I think I'm going to take Stanford here at home, catching the points. I think this is a game they could win outright. I think they got the talent there. It's just if they can play, like you just talked about, Ian. Will they come to play here? But I'll be on Stanford, I think, tonight. I'm just going to wait and see how the line moves here throughout the day.
Anybody thinking that the coaching change was going to spark Portland, you can forget about it. Forget about it. Portland taking on San Diego. We've got the Toreros 12.5, 13-point home favorites, 143.5 the total. What are you going to do here? I mean, San Diego, are they truly San Diego, that deserves to be double-digit favorites? But at the same time, how the hell do you bet Portland? How the hell do you bet Portland? They've lost 10 in a row, 1-9 against the spread during that span. The last losses, 25 to Loyola Marymount, 45 to BYU, 21-point loss to Pepperdine, 27-point loss at Pacific, 22-point loss in the rematch against Pacific. They're getting blown out. They're getting eviscerated. They're getting wiped out. And so you better there's no way I'm taking Portland. But at the same time, San Diego, like the largest favorite they've been in conference play is 3.5 again, and it was against Portland on the road. Look at the adjustment. They were a 3.5-point road favorite at Portland, San Diego earlier this year. They won that game by 8, and now they're 13-point home favorites. So the betting markets and the odds makers have completely crashed the Portland power rating. They can't be possibly power rated any lower than they are. So they're trying to get them power rated low enough that there's finally at some point a breaking point and value on Portland. But they look like a team that's waving the white flag. Couldn't care less about their performance the rest of the season. Can't back teams like that, bottom feeders. No way this late in the season. So I guess if you had to, lay it with San Diego, but come on, they were 3.5 on the road at Portland, and they only won that game by 8. And now you got to lay 13 with them. That's not value either. So no, I want no part of this one. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, you can't lay back a team in Portland that's just basically kind of given up and just want this year to be over with, like you said. I mean, they're just so bad. I mean, if they were showing some fight, but they haven't. They've just continued to lose by at least 15 or more every game. But yeah, San Diego was laying that. I mean, I think it'd only be San Diego, to tell you the truth, and I'm not going to do it. I think that'd be the only play, but I don't want to be hold my nose and lay San Diego here. Minus 12.5, but that'd be the only play here. Portland's just that bad right now. I can't do it. I can't, because San Diego's not that good either. But wow, that's a big number. Pass.
All right, this is a good one to analyze here. Montana and Idaho State. Montana 2.5-point road favorites, 126 the total. Montana's a 2.5-point road favorite. They've got a 5-9 Big Sky Conference record. Idaho State has a 7-3 Big Sky Conference record. But you look at Idaho State's had every feasted on the weak, Sisters of the Poor schedule this season. Haven't played anybody good. I don't think they're that good, actually, even though they're 7-3 in the conference. And I know Montana's down. They're not what they've been in years past, but they've had to play a murderer's row schedule in comparison here in conference play compared to Idaho State. The fact that you've got these two vastly different records in conference play, and you're laying 2.5 with Montana. And let's be honest, Idaho State's been a bottom feeder for years in the Big Sky. This is only the first time Montana's been kind of mediocre. Montana's usually one of the top teams in this conference. I think this is a telling price right here that Montana's favored despite these conference records. It tells you the odds makers kind of think Montana's still the better of these teams and that they face the tougher schedule. I agree in both counts. I would look at Montana here, minus 2.5. What do you think, Connor?
I agree as well. They are the better team. Idaho State's played nobody. They've just played the bottom of the bottom. Their first game of the year was Santa Clara. That's the only probably decent team I see on their schedule, and they lost by 13 or 14. Yeah, it'd be Montana or pass here. Of course, you got to lay little premium short price on the road, but it'd be Montana or pass in this one. And I think the total's 125. It could be first one to 60, but I'd still maybe take the over in this one. I think the total's really low at 125.
Yeah, it could get up and over the. Keep in mind, Montana can shoot a little bit. They're fourth in the conference efficiency offensively. They can hit the three ball. They're good at the free throw line. And it might make this total a little bit low. It just seems like this number's dirt cheap compared to where it would be if Montana was one of those powerhouse teams they've been in years past. They've beaten Idaho State 19 straight times, and yet you only have to win 2.5 with them here in this game. So that tells you. Look, and that's why to me, this is just telling you right here. Montana's probably the right side. They've got the weaker conference record compared to Idaho State, and yet they're favored on the road. That's almost like a dead giveaway that's probably pointing you in the right direction, that Montana's the right way to go in this game. Loyola Marymount and Pepperdine. Pepperdine, 4.5-point home favorites, 143.5 the total on this one. I'm going to take my chance on the over here in this game. Loyola Marymount's quickened their tempo a little bit this year, the first-year head coach that they have. Pepperdine, we know, plays that way under Lorenzo Romar. They get up and down the basketball court. The total's very reasonable, low 140s. I'm going to go over the total here, 143.5 with Loyola Marymount and Pepperdine. Two teams that are playing some decent ball right now, so it's tough from a side perspective. So I'm just going to stick, I should say, with the total here. Connor, what do you think here? Marymount, Pepperdine.
Yeah, both these teams are playing pretty good. I had no real look here or advantage. I think the line's about right. At Pepperdine, 4.5. If I had to, I'd take the points with Loyola a little bit. They seem to have been able to cover. They haven't been able to win. They've been losing a lot of close games this year. I'm with you. I think it could get over, but I'm not going to bet it. It's just a lean. If Pepperdine plays how they want to, this game will go over. If they're efficient and they're just going up and down, because Loyola can shoot a bit, they can score decent. It's all about they dictate it here. It can get over.
All right, we got Minnesota at home Minnesota, and we know how good they've been at home, taking on Northwestern. 4.5-point home favorites, 141.5 the total. First glance, the first thing you notice, Minnesota with their 13-2 straight up home record is laying 4.5 at home to Northwestern. What the hell am I missing here? Well, what you're missing here, banged up Minnesota team. With Gabe Kalsher out, Robbins out with an ankle injury, Marcus Carr playing tonight, but playing very significant foot injury. They say it's pain for him to get around the basketball court right now. And we know Marcus Carr has been the MVP, the Minnesota Golden Gophers this season. So they're a short-handed team. Their best players playing at less than 100%. That's the reason Minnesota's only laying 4.5. All that being said, I could only look to Minnesota here in this game. Northwestern's had a tough time. We know that. They get blown out by Wisconsin by 7. They did cover at Illinois. Prior to that, lost at Rutgers, lost at Purdue. It's been a rough go for them on the road here. I'd still lean very, very much to Minnesota, but they got blown out. They didn't look right with these injuries, and Carr didn't play well against Illinois, and they got just beaten down 94-63. In that game on Saturday. That being said, from a value perspective, it is cheap on Minnesota, but unfortunately it's cheap because they're not very healthy right now. And it's enough of a concern where, I'm not betting against Minnesota at home. I just won't do it, especially off a terrible loss to Illinois.
Yeah,
but I'm worried about the injuries enough that I'm going to keep the Golden Gophers as only a lean. What do you think, Connor, about this one, Northwestern, Minnesota?
Me too. I'm going to wait. I might bet this game. I'm going to just see the injuries. Everything revolves around Carr, like you talked about. I mean, he's their point guard. The offense kind of revolves around him getting to the hole, kicking and dishing it. It's cheap here, but they got their ass kicked 3 straight times. We know they're bad road woes. I think they bounce back and play better. It's pretty cheap. So my lean's with Minnesota as well. Northwestern hasn't been able to do anything on the road. It looks tricky though. This line, I hate saying that, kind of, it's a little eyebrow raising like The Rock. I can't do it, but a little one of those. I'd lean Minnesota. Yeah, I can't do it.
I can do it a little.
I'd lean Minnesota still. But I'd see how Clara's doing. Try to keep the updates on him before the game.
All right, we got a big showdown here in the Mountain West. This is a game that I'm looking forward to tonight. Boise State, San Diego State. Aztecs land 6.5 at Viejas. The total 137.5 here in this game. Two teams playing some really good basketball. Boise, we know what they've done. They impressive to beat Utah State twice, albeit that was at home. Let's see what Boise does on the road. Boise against the better teams in the Mountain West on the road. They're only 1-3 straight up in ATS, Boise. They had the one win against Colorado State. They split with the Rams, and then they lost twice at Nevada. So going on the road and facing San Diego State, the way the Aztecs are rolling right now with this terrific run that they're on, we're talking in terms of the last 8 games, 8-0 straight up, 7-1 against the spread. At home, they've pulverized teams. They lost 2 games, but at Utah State, whereas Boise State got Utah State at home. So it may look like, wait a minute, San Diego State lost twice to Utah State, but Boise State beat Utah State twice. Don't you got to bet Boise here? To me, the fact that Boise's getting this many points tells me that I think the Aztecs might kick their ass tonight. And remember, Boise has feasted on a little bit of a weaker schedule compared to San Diego State, particularly in the non-conference. And in a game of this magnitude, I think San Diego State shows up for it. And it's also worth noting they've dummied Boise State in recent head-to-head meetings. 71-65, 83-65, 72-55, 81-68. I mean, they've really taken care of business against Boise. I think they do it again. I'm laying it here with the Aztecs. What do you think, Conor? Boise, San Diego State?
Yeah, this should be a good one. I haven't bet it. I'm looking towards the other side a little bit. I wanted a little bit more. That Boise was about 8, not at 6.5. The problem, the key as why I haven't bet it yet is those road woes. They've just not played well. Their schedule's been a bit soft. Those 2 home wins were good against Utah State, but Utah State played great early on, kind of faded a little bit lately. Yeah, I lean with Boise and the points, and I've been on San Diego State the last 3 or 4 games, and they've covered for me, easily against Fresno. I'm going to lean Boise still. I'm going to see if it gets even to maybe touches 7. And yeah, if Boise wants to play well, they got to go a little up tempo and score. But San Diego State's got that great defense. They can shut teams down, especially at home. So total's right there. I mean, I maybe lean towards the over a little bit. Boise likes playing over games.
Yeah, I think the total could get there with the over. I'm neutral on it, but I could see that why you'd be looking to maybe make a case for it here in this one. Next up, we've got Oregon State, Cal. Oregon State pick 'em -1 on the road at Cal. 131 the total. Yes, you're not seeing things. Oregon State is indeed favored on the road. You can argue, though, that right now they might deserve to be favored on the road here. They're visiting Cal. They're looking to go 3-0 against Cal this year. They already beat Cal twice this season. And you know what they always say? It's hard to beat the same team 3 times. And I don't buy that nonsense. That's total rubbish. Total BS. Sometimes a team just matches up better with another. And usually if they're good enough to beat them twice, they're good enough to beat them a 3rd time. And Oregon State's playing some of their best basketball of the season right now. They're shooting the ball extremely well. Ethan Thompson, leading scorer, has been magnificent for them. Jared Lucas has stepped up his game, 12.2 points per game lately. Cal's the Matt Bradley show. Matt Bradley and not a whole lot of else in terms of the supporting cast consistently for this team. They got drilled by the Washington schools on the road. Now, I know they return home and they've been a little bit more competitive, better results at home this year, covered some numbers at home as well. But Oregon State, they've covered 4 straight. They almost beat Arizona State. They almost beat Arizona. They almost beat Colorado, 61-57 in their last game. I like the form for the Beavers. I'd lean to them here to get the win. And all they got to do is win the game to cash the ticket. I think they could do that. I would lean Oregon State with the Beaver Chomps here. C-Mac, what do you think, Oregon State, Cal?
This is the pass for me. I don't like anything about it. Oregon State's played better lately. Cal hasn't. I've liked Cal all year. Catching points, they're not here. I mean, they got to win it in this one. Yeah, they had that win at home against Colorado, and they are better at home here. They went on the road, to Washington schools and got whipped. I'm just off it. I'd maybe take Cal, but I don't love it. Love nothing about this one because Oregon State's not very good on the road, so I want nothing to do with them either. So just a pass.
All right, next up with Washington State, Arizona, we've got the Wildcats, 9-point home favorites, 139.5 the total in this game. The Wazoo Cougars and one of my favorite young coaches in the game, Kyle Smith. And here's this team. All of a sudden, the last several games, they beat UCLA at home, they beat Oregon on the road. They've had a couple stumbles in there. They lost to USC. They had a really bad home loss to Washington, but after the way they lost to USC, kind of a letdown, just total flat spot. But boy, Washington State bounced back the last two. They crushed Cal, and then they beat Stanford in overtime, 85-76 in their last game. Isaac Bonton is that's the guy you watch for this team. Certainly got to keep an eye on his injury status tonight. Ankle injury, questionable, missed the last 3 games, might return tonight. I'd love to see him back. If he is, I would look to Washington State. I think this team is definitely playing good ball. They're undervalued. They've covered numbers of late as well. You look at their point spread record, their last 9 games. They've gone 6-2-1 ATS, their last 9. Arizona, look, they were definitely fired up to play UCLA and USC on the road. They lost to UCLA. They beat USC. It's still a team that, postseason out of the question. Now you're back home playing Washington State, kind of a flat spot for Arizona. So I'm looking for a reason to bet Washington State here. I'm hoping Bonton plays. If he does, I'm absolutely on the Cougars here, getting 9.5. Connor, what's your take here with the Cougs and the Wildcats?
Yeah, waiting on him is big. Even though they played well without him. I watched these teams play to the overtime in Washington State. I watched that whole, I think it was double overtime. I think they can stay close too. I worry a little bit. I mean, Arizona, this is their end of the year. They got, they're not going to the tournament a little bit, but I think it's too many points. I'm with you. I've been a Washington State backer, and I've cashed a lot more than I haven't. I've played them a bit this year, especially in late night West Coast games here in Vegas. That's the last game on the board sometimes at 8 o'clock here. So I like the 9 points as well. Arizona's been up and down, and they have not been a home team that's covered well all year. They've won their games, but big numbers they have not covered. So I'm going to take the points with Washington State here. I lean towards the over as well here at 139. I think Arizona can get up and down. So can Washington State. It's not. I like the side better, but I think we can get over the total of 139.
All right, next up, Pacific, St. Mary's. We've got St. Mary's 6.5 home favorites here, 123 the total in this game. I'm not laying points with St. Mary's at home. This is a shell of the Gales that we've seen in years past. They've had better teams, much better teams than this one. I've said that pretty much all season, and I stick by it. It's just a team that has struggled as well in the home favorites role. They didn't cover against Pepperdine in their last game, even though they won. They didn't cover. They lost outright as home favorites against BYU. They lost outright as 9-point home favorites against Santa Clara. This is just not this is a mediocre St. Mary's team this year. That's all they are. They've fallen off from where Gonzaga and BYU. They're usually right there with those 2 other teams in the West Coast Conference. That's not the case this year, though, against this St. Mary's team, or for this St. Mary's team. And on the flip side, you look at Pacific, 5-2 ATS their last 7 games. I know, Connor, you landed on Pacific in that one real bad game they had against BYU at home, 80-52. You've remarked about that a couple of times, but look what they did after that. Winning cover on the road, San Diego and Portland. I'm on Pacific here. Give me Damon Stoudemire's Pacific Tigers here, getting 6 in this game against St. Mary's. They've been bad home favorites. I was on Pepperdine the other day against them. Give me the Pacific Tigers here, +6. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I said I'm not going to go back and do it, but St. Mary's hasn't been good all year. At home, they're very mediocre, like you said. You've been all year not high on them, and they haven't been very good. This isn't a vintage St. Mary's team that we've seen the last 5-10 years. Tough time shooting it. They don't have great shooters. They hold the ball a long time, and that's right into Pacific. That's what they kind of want to play too. I mean, that's why the total's 122. I mean, 122.5. I mean, talk about low total. And you're going to give 6 points. I'd only got to lean to taking the 6 with Pacific here. I said I wasn't going to take them again after they got blown out. And what do? Degenerate. Right back on them. +6, baby.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not just about Pacific. This is about St. Mary's struggling with all favorites and struggling to put the ball in the basket. I mean, they scored 66, 58, 65. 59, 52, 64 in their last 3 home games. So not good at all.
6 offensively. Points is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Not very good for a team that's being asked to win this game and lay 6 points to do so. And definitely liking Pacific here. All right. We're going to do the Horizon League tournament. Now, yes, you're not seeing things. This is an early start for conference tournaments, but one of the first conference to hit conference tournament play is the Horizon League. And they start their conference tournament tonight in the first round. We have 4 games. The home team is hosting each game on their home court. We've got Robert Morris, Detroit, Illinois, Chicago, Youngstown State, IPFW, Green Bay, and IUPUI, Milwaukee. We have Detroit 10.5-point home favorites, 144.5 the total in this game. Illinois, Chicago, Youngstown State, Youngstown 6-point home favorites, 143.5 the total. Green Bay 6-point home favorites against IPFW, 144 the total, and Milwaukee 4-point home favorites, 152.5 the total in that one. I've got a couple of opinions here on these games. I like Detroit in the over against Robert Morris. They've gotten, I believe, over the total the 2 previous head-to-head meetings this year, and Detroit has been superior to Robert Morris both times. It's a lot of points, but I like the way Mike Davis's Detroit team plays. They could be one of those teams out of this first round group of teams. It goes on a bit of a run in this conference tournament and maybe even threaten, to go deep into it. Detroit can just flat out score. Their defense has improved a little bit. I think they'll take care of business against Robert Morris there, and I like the over. Illinois, Chicago, Youngstown State, just a lean to the over because of Youngstown State. They play extremely fast, good offensively, shaky defensively. Wisconsin, Green Bay, IPFW, not much on this game. IUPUI, Milwaukee. I like Milwaukee, and I like the over here. Milwaukee's been on an over machine down the stretch. Milwaukee's been trending over the total. I'm just riding that over 152, and I think they beat IUPUI. Their form's been better than the Jaguars down the stretch, so I like Milwaukee and the over in that game. Conor, your thoughts on these 4 first-round games in the Horizon League tournament?
I have really none. The only one I like was the over in Robert Morris and Detroit. And I also like Detroit. I just think it was a too many. I think they can cover here. They're the better team. They've been playing way better, especially the second half of the year. So I'd lean to the points there. The other games, ugly teams, with Green Bay, Fort Wayne. I just had nothing. I didn't like anything in those 3. So it was just a pass.
All right, added board. I'm on St. Francis, New York. +3 against Merrimack. On Wagner Central Connecticut over 136.5. I'm lost a lot of value, but I'm on LIU Brooklyn. I got 159.5. It's 164 now. That total's gone through the roof. That's going to be a breakneck pace game. LIU Brooklyn Bryant over the total, but I am on that. And I'm on Fairleigh Dickinson at a pick'em against +1 is what I got. It's pick'em now against Sacred Heart. That's it. That's my added board looks. Anything for you, Conor, on the added board?
Yeah, I have Merrimack. I like it now that it's gone down a little too much. I see 2.5s. I'm going to take them. I lean Bryant, but I don't love it at 5.5. And I think that could get over.
Come back down to earth, Bryant, from a point spread perspective.
They have.
The last couple of weeks.
It's been, though, real sharp here. I mean, from 9 all the way down to 5.5. It's just a lean. I haven't bet it. And I think that game could get over. And yeah, I like Fairleigh Dickinson as well. I think in a pick'em spot against Sacred Heart, I think they could win there. That's it. Mississippi State, I want to take 32, but Prairie View, they might be able to cover that one. So I'm going to stay off.
Yeah, the class of the SWAC, no question. Yeah. Prairie View A&M's a very good team. I shouldn't say a great team. They're a great team by SWAC standards. You put Prairie View A&M against Baylor or Gonzaga or Michigan or Villanova.
Yeah, they lose by 20.
Yeah, for SWAC standards, they're the best team that there is in this conference. All right, we're going to get to best bets in just a second before we wrap up the show. But before we do that, Connor, word from our sponsors.
Everyone needs another book. You got multiple books to get the best lines. Go to mybookie.ag at promo code PubSports. Get 50% off your debit or credit. Get 100% off the Bitcoin. Use the Bitcoin. Put in $1,000, you get $1,000, or at least a minimum of 100. Put 100, you get 100. Mybookie.ag, promo code PubSports. Go to bulksupplements.com at promo code PubSports. You get 5 to 10% off your order. Get all the vitamins, creatine, vitamin D, whatever the hell. Get jacked up, at bulksupplements.com. Promo code PubSports. And lastly, go to manscaped.com. 20% off your order. Get the tree trimmer, the ball deodorant. Keep everything shaved tight. Keep it good. Manscaped.com. 20% off. Get it. Promo code PubSports.
There you go. And the best bet for Nasty Nate in the chat cashes in. Connor telling us to shave our nuts. So there we go. Good stuff. Good stuff from everyone in the chat. By the way, everybody that's joining us, tuning in live, we appreciate that. And thanks for watching the Closing Time Show, college basketball, and our NBA show. Our NBA show is the one that's on tomorrow, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. Connor, Ski Prophet, and I talking NBA tomorrow. We're back on Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, with the next college basketball edition of the Closing Time Show. All right, so best bets. What can we say? It's Dayton St. Joe's. I love those where you don't even have to sweat, don't even have to worry about it. That game was just, I knew in the first 5 minutes of that game, when I think there were like 30 points in the first 5 minutes of the game, that, hey, we're going to get this thing over the total with ease. It got there
right away. Yeah, when you just see it and they're just hitting shots and you're like, yes.
Yes, it's coming through. So
not even a cold streak.
Dayton and St. Joe's over 12-2. I'm proud of that. 12-2. Last 14 college basketball Closing Time Show best bets. We'll see how we add to it tonight. I'm going to go with, in terms of my best bet on this card, I'm just going through my list here. The streak is important to me. It's been a good run. I don't want to screw it up. I want to make it good, make it count. I'm going to make it count with Montana tonight, -2.5 here against Idaho State. I don't usually go Big Sky. I don't think I've gone Big Sky yet this year for a best bet. This one makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah, they've got the worst conference record, but their stats are better. Their strength of schedule is much tougher than Idaho State, and they've owned Idaho State. Only 19 wins in a row for Montana against Idaho State. Let's go -2.5, Montana Grizzlies over the Idaho State Bengals. Big Sky action. I haven't had a Big Sky best bet all year. They better not let me down. I won't have a Big Sky best bet ever again on this show if this doesn't come through tonight. I'm kidding, of course. It's always day to day. But for me, yeah, Montana -2.5 against Idaho State, best bet. Connor, what do you like? Best bet tonight?
The Big Sky. I like it. I'm going to go Weber State. -6.5 is my best bet tonight over Sacramento. So Weber State -6.5, my best bet. Let's keep it in the family there.
Yeah, exactly. Big Sky for big profits, hopefully, for Connor and I. Weber State -6.5 against Sacramento State, best bet for Connor Mack. That'll wrap up the show. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. We appreciate it. Everyone in the chat. Good luck with all of your plays tonight. We'll be back tomorrow with the NBA show at 4 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern, with the next college basketball Closing Time Show right here on Pub Sports Radio. For Connor Mack, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Thursday night. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again tomorrow on Friday for the NBA Closing Time Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Peace.